Limerence. There is a cruelty built into the architecture of human attachment. Two people can share the same experience and walk away carrying completely different weights. One remembers, the other forgets. One replays, the other moves on. One carries the ghost for years. The other does not know there is a ghost at all. This asymmetry has a name: limerence. It is the state of being consumed by someone who is not consumed by you. The state of thinking about someone more than they will ever think about you. And if you have ever felt this weight, if you have ever been the one who remembers while they became the one who forgot, then you already know what this word means. You just did not know there was a word for it. This is limerence. A psychologist named Dorothy Tenoff gave it this name in 1979. She had spent years listening to people describe the same experience, the same torment, the same inability to stop thinking about someone who was not thinking about them. And she realized this state was so common, so specific, so devastating that it needed its own word. Limerence is not love. Love can be peaceful. Love can let you sleep. Love does not require you to think about someone every waking hour. Limerence is invasion. It is occupation. It is the experience of having your mind colonized by another person without your consent. And the cruelest part is this: limerence is almost always asymmetrical. One person is consumed. The other has moved on. One person is drowning. The other does not know there is water. You are the one who is consumed. You are the one who is drowning. And you have tried to let go. God, you have tried. You have read the articles. You have told yourself it is time to move on. You have deleted the photos, blocked the number, promised yourself this is the last time you will think about it. And then 2 a.m. comes. And you are awake again. And they are there again. And the limerence continues, indifferent to your decisions, immune to your willpower, unimpressed by your attempts to reason it away. This is not weakness. This is not you being dramatic or broken or pathetic. This is something deeper, something structural. Because letting go is not a decision you make with your mind. It is a death you have to die. And your entire psychological system is designed to keep you alive, even if that means keeping you trapped. There is a phenomenon in medicine called phantom limb syndrome. When a person loses an arm or a leg, something strange happens. They continue to feel the limb that is no longer there, not just a memory of it, actual sensation, pain, itching, movement, cramping. The brain sends signals to a hand that does not exist. The nervous system refuses to accept that the limb is gone. Doctors have tried everything. They explain to the patient that the arm is not there. They show them. They point to the empty space where the limb used to be. The patient understands intellectually. They know the arm is gone. They can see that it is gone. But the pain continues because the brain has not updated its map. Somewhere deep in the neural architecture, the arm still exists. The body still expects it to be there. The neurons that used to fire when the arm moved still fire. The pathways that used to carry sensation from the fingers still activate. The brain is running software for hardware that no longer exists. And when it reaches for something and finds nothing, there is pain, real pain, excruciating pain, pain in something that does not exist. There is a treatment. It involves a mirror. The patient places their remaining arm in front of a mirror, positioned so that the reflection looks like the missing arm. When they move the real arm, the reflection moves. And something in the brain, seeing the arm move, starts to believe it is real. The phantom relaxes. The pain decreases. The brain has to be tricked into letting go. It cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be argued with. It has to be shown something that looks like what it lost. You are experiencing the same thing, not with a limb, with a person, with a version of your life, with a self that used to exist. The relationship ended 3 years ago, but you still feel pain in the part of you that was connected to them, the part that expected them to be there, the part that still reaches in the middle of the night and finds empty space. You are having phantom pain, and no amount of logic makes it stop. You can tell yourself they are gone. You can understand it intellectually. You can point to the empty space where they used to be. You can list all the reasons why you should move on. But the brain has not updated its map. Somewhere deep in your architecture, they still exist. You still expect to tell them about your day. You still expect to hear their voice when something good happens. You still expect to reach for them in moments of fear or joy or boredom. And when you reach and find nothing, there is pain, real pain, in something that is no longer there. And unlike the amputee, you cannot use a mirror. There is no trick that will make your brain believe they are back. There is only the long, slow process of the neural pathways weakening, the connections fading, the map updating, one painful day at a time. But here is what makes this worse than a missing limb. When you lose an arm, you only lose the arm. When you lose a person, you lose a version of yourself. You were someone in that relationship. You had a role, an identity, a character in a story. You were their partner, their child, their employee, their friend. You were the one who was loved, or the one who loved too much, or the one who tried everything and it still was not enough. And when they left, that version of you had nowhere to go. So you kept it, you preserved it, you continue to perform it years later in an empty theater. Letting go of them does not just mean releasing another person. It means killing the version of yourself that existed when they mattered. And most people would rather live as ghosts than die and become something new. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard understood this better than almost anyone. He wrote about what he called the sickness unto death. Not physical death, something worse. A death of the self that happens while you are still alive. Kierkegaard identified 2 forms of this sickness. The first is not wanting to be yourself, looking at who you are, at the life you have, at the choices you have made, and refusing to accept it, wishing you were someone else, wishing your story had gone differently, trying desperately to escape yourself. The second is wanting to be a self that you cannot be, clinging to an identity that no longer exists, refusing to let go of who you were, even though that person is gone, trying to resurrect a dead version of yourself through sheer force of will. Both are forms of despair. Both are ways of refusing to exist in the present moment as who you actually are. And both are what happens when you cannot let go. You are sick with the second sickness. You are trying to be a self that no longer exists. You are performing an identity that has no stage anymore, no audience, no reality. You are an actor who refuses to leave the theatre after the play has ended, still reciting lines into the darkness. And Kierkegaard would say, this is not love. This is not loyalty. This is not strength. This is despair. The despair of refusing to become who you are now, because you cannot accept that who you were is dead. You are still thinking about the ex from 3 years ago. You tell people you are over it. You might even believe it sometimes. You have dated other people. You have said all the right things about moving on, about learning from the experience, about being grateful for what it taught you. But late at night, you still check their social media. You still notice when they post something. You still feel that twist in your stomach when you see they are happy without you. You still construct elaborate fantasies where they realize they were wrong and come back, where they finally understand what they lost, where the story ends differently. Why? It is not because you still love them. Maybe you do, but that is not why you cannot let go. You cannot let go because that relationship gave you an identity. You were their partner. You were the one who loved deeply. You were the person who gave everything, and it still was not enough. You were the one who was left. You were the one who was betrayed, or abandoned, or not chosen. And if you let go of them, you let go of that story. You let go of that character. You let go of the version of yourself that lived in that relationship. And then who are you? Without the story of what they did to you, without the identity of the one who was hurt, without the narrative of the great love that failed, who are you? Just a person. Just someone standing in the present moment with no script. Just empty space where an identity used to be. And that emptiness is more terrifying than the pain. So you keep the pain. You keep the ghost. You keep checking their social media at 2 a.m. Not because you want to, but because the checking is a ritual that keeps the identity alive. As long as you are still hurting, you are still the person who was hurt. As long as you are still watching, you are still connected. As long as you are still grieving, the relationship is not really over. Or maybe it is not a relationship. Maybe it is a job that fired you 10 years ago. You still tell the story. You still explain why it was not fair, why you deserved better, why they made a mistake, why the system was rigged against you. You have told this story so many times it is polished, rehearsed, perfected. Every detail in place, every injustice catalogued. The people in your life stopped wanting to hear it years ago. You can see it in their eyes when you start. The slight glaze, the way they wait for you to finish. But you keep telling it. Because the person who was wronged is an identity. It is solid. It is clear. It gives your life a shape, a narrative, a meaning. Victim, maybe. But victim is still a role, and a role is better than nothing. If you let go of the story, if you stop telling it, if you accepted that the job is gone and the injustice happened and no one is coming to make it right, then what? Then you are just a person who lost a job 10 years ago. Then it is just something that happened, not something that defines you. Then you have to find a new story, a new identity, a new way of understanding who you are. And that is terrifying. So you keep the grudge, you keep the wound, you keep rehearsing the injustice because rehearsing it keeps the self alive. Or maybe it is not a job. Maybe it is a parent who died before you got their approval. So you still live like they are watching. You still make choices to prove something to someone who is not here. You still carry their voice in your head, criticizing, withholding, never quite satisfied. You graduated. You got the promotion. You bought the house. You did everything they said you should do. And each time, you waited for the feeling of finally being enough. The feeling that never came when they were alive and still has not come now that they are dead. You cannot let them go, because if you do, what do you do with the 40 years you spent trying to make them proud? Was it all for nothing? Were you chasing a ghost the whole time? Were they even capable of giving you what you needed? If you let go of needing their approval, you have to face that you wasted half your life chasing something that was never available. You have to grieve not just their death, but the death of the possibility that they might have finally seen you. finally loved you the way you needed. And that grief is unbearable. So you keep them alive. You keep performing for them. You keep the voice in your head because the voice, harsh as it is still a connection, still a relationship, still better than the silence of accepting that they are gone and they are never going to give you what you needed, and you have to find a way to give it to yourself. This is the architecture of not letting go. It is not weakness. It is not a failure of willpower. It is not something you can fix with a decision or an affirmation or a good therapist. Though a good therapist might help you see it more clearly, it is structural. You have built your sense of self out of these relationships, these events, these wounds. You are made of other people. Your identity is not a solid thing inside you, some essential core that exists independent of everything that has happened to you. It is a story you tell yourself about yourself, a narrative constructed from the characters who have passed through your life, the events that have shaped you, the wounds that have marked you. I am the child of parents who did not see me. I am the one who was left. I am the person who was betrayed. I am the one who loved too much. I am the one who was never good enough. I am the one who tried everything, and it still was not enough. I am the one who was abandoned. I am the one who was used. I am the one who gave everything and received nothing. Every sentence like this is a brick in the structure of who you are. And the structure feels solid. It feels real. It feels like you. But it is not you. It is a construction. It is a story you have told so many times that you have forgotten it is a story. You have mistaken the narrative for the narrator. You have confused the character with the person playing the character. And when you try to remove one of those bricks, when you try to let go of one of those defining stories, the whole building threatens to collapse. This is why you cannot let go. Letting go of the person who hurt you means letting go of the person who was hurt by them. Letting go of the past means letting go of the version of you that lived there. Letting go of the wound means letting go of the identity that formed around the wound. And if you let go of all the stories that make you who you are, what is left? Just empty space, just a terrifying openness, just the vertigo of not knowing who you are without the pain that defined you. Just the question you have been avoiding your entire life. Who am I, really, underneath all of this? And you do not know, and that not knowing is unbearable. So you keep the stories, you keep the wounds, you keep the ghosts, because at least with ghosts, you know who you are. You are the one who is haunted. And there is something even darker. You do not just hold on to the pain, you recreate it. The woman who was abandoned by her father dates men who will abandon her. Not once, not by accident, again and again. A pattern so clear that her friends can see it, her therapist can see it, everyone can see it except her. The man who was humiliated as a child puts himself in situations where he will be humiliated again. He chooses bosses who belittle him. He enters competitions he will lose. He makes himself small in rooms where he could be large. The person who was betrayed finds friends who will betray them. They trust the untrustworthy. They confide in the ones who will spread their secrets. They hand their vulnerability to the people least likely to protect it. This is not bad luck. This is not coincidence. This is not the universe punishing you. This is the nervous system seeking what it recognizes. You would think we are motivated by pleasure. Seek what feels good. Avoid what hurts. Simple logic, obvious strategy. The foundation of every self-help book ever written. But humans are not motivated by pleasure. We are motivated by familiarity. And if pain is what you know, pain is what you seek, not consciously. You do not wake up and decide to find someone who will hurt you. You do not look at a list of potential partners and think, "This one seems most likely to abandon me. I will choose them." But your body recognizes certain patterns, certain dynamics, certain flavors of relationship. Your nervous system has a template built in childhood of what love looks like, what connection feels like, what home means. And if your template was built in chaos, you will find chaos comfortable. If your template was built in criticism, you will find criticism familiar. If your template was built in the particular rhythm of someone pulling away and coming back, pulling away and coming back, you will find stability boring and intermittent attention exciting. When someone treats you well, when someone is kind and stable and present and consistent, something feels wrong. You cannot name it. You might call it boredom. You might say there is no chemistry. You might say they are too nice, too available, too easy. But what you are actually feeling is, this does not match my template. Your template was built in chaos, in criticism, in withdrawal, in unpredictability, in the particular pain of your particular childhood. And when someone offers you peace, your nervous system does not recognize it as safety. It recognizes it as unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels dangerous. So you sabotage it. You leave. You create drama. You pick a fight about nothing. You find a flaw and magnify it until it becomes a reason to go. You return to what you know because what you know, painful as it is, feels like home. And home is where you go when you are scared, even if home is what hurt you in the first place. So you are trapped. You cannot let go of the past because the past is who you are. You cannot stop recreating the past because the past is what you recognize. You cannot accept peace because peace feels like the calm before something terrible happens. You are a closed loop, a snake eating its own tail, a person running in circles in a burning building because at least the building is familiar. And the question that burns underneath all of this is, why? Why is it so terrifying to let go? What are you actually afraid of? The answer is simple. You are afraid of nothing. Literally. The void, the absence, the empty space where the story used to be. Kierkegaard wrote about this. He called it anxiety, not fear. Fear has an object. You are afraid of something specific. But anxiety is different. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. The vertigo of realizing you could be anyone or no one. That there is no fixed self underneath all your choices. That you are not a thing, but a process. Not a noun, but a verb. And that is unbearable. Because if you are pure possibility, then you are also pure responsibility. You cannot blame the past anymore. You cannot say I am this way because of what happened to me. You have to say I am this way because I keep choosing to be this way. And that is too much weight, too much freedom, too much terrifying openness. So you hide. You cling to the past because the past gives you an excuse. It gives you a story. It gives you something solid. I am the one who was hurt is a shelter. It is a fixed point in a chaotic universe. It tells you who you are so you do not have to face the terror of deciding for yourself. Letting go means stepping into the void. And the void has no flaw. But there is another side to this. There is a cost to holding on, and it is not small. You think you are keeping something precious. You think you are protecting a connection, a memory, a version of yourself that matters. You think the pain is proof of how much you loved, how much you cared, how much it meant. But what you are actually doing is giving your life to a ghost. Every hour you spend thinking about them is an hour you are not spending on something else. Every night you lie awake replaying the past is a night you are not resting for the future. Every ounce of energy you pour into the wound is energy you are not using to build something new. You are paying rent on an apartment you do not live in anymore, and the rent is your life. Think about what you have given them, not when you were together, after, the hours of obsessive thought, the nights of lost sleep, the conversations you have had with them in your head, the arguments you have won in fantasy, the reconciliations you have imagined in detail. Added up, weeks, months, years. You have spent more time grieving the relationship than you spent in the relationship. You have spent more energy on the ghost than you ever spent on the person when they were real. And what have you received in return? Nothing. They do not know. They are not there. They are not receiving your suffering. They are not moved by your loyalty. They are not impressed by your inability to move on. You are making an offering to an empty altar. You are keeping a vigil for someone who is not dead. You are maintaining a grave for a person who is living their life somewhere else, not thinking about you, not caring about your pain, not aware that you are still here, holding on, waiting for something that is never going to happen. The years pass. You keep holding on. And one day, you look up and realize that the prime of your life is behind you. That the years you spent in the past were years you could have spent building a future. That every moment you gave to the ghost was a moment stolen from whoever you might have become. This is the cost of not letting go. Not just pain, time. The irreplaceable, non-renewable resource of your one life, spent on someone who is not here, on a version of yourself that no longer exists, on a story that ended years ago but you keep telling anyway. The ghost does not care, but your future does, and your future is getting smaller every day you spend in the past. So how do you let go? You want me to tell you. You want the technique, the method, the 5 steps. You want the thing you can do tonight that will finally release you. But there is no how. This is the hardest truth. Letting go is not something you do. It is something that happens to you. It is something you allow, and you cannot force it. The more you try to let go, the tighter you grip. The more you demand that you be over it, the more power you give to the thing you are trying to release. Letting go is not an action. It is an absence of action. It is the moment when you finally stop, and you cannot make yourself stop. You can only get tired. This is what happens. Not a breakthrough, not a moment of clarity, just exhaustion. You carry the weight so long that your arms start to shake. You tell the story so many times that your mouth gets tired. You perform the identity so relentlessly that one day, without planning it, you just stop. Not because you decided to, not because you healed, because you ran out of energy to keep holding on. And in that exhaustion, something releases. Not all at once, not dramatically. You do not wake up one day and the pain is gone. You wake up one day and realize you did not think about them yesterday. And then a week later, you think about them and it does not hurt as much. And then a month later, you mention their name and your stomach does not drop. Or maybe it never fully goes away. Maybe you carry it forever. Some people do. Some ghosts are permanent residents. Some losses are so profound that they become part of your permanent landscape. And that is not failure. That is just truth. The question is not always, how do I let go? Sometimes the question is, can I live without letting go? Can I carry this and still have a life? Can I make room for the ghost and still make room for something new? Can I hold the pain in one hand and hold the present in the other? And if the answer is no, if the ghost is taking up all the space, then you have a different question. What am I willing to lose to get my life back? Because that is what it comes down to. Letting go is loss. You lose the identity. You lose the story. You lose the comfortable prison of the familiar. And you gain what? You do not know until you do it. Maybe freedom, maybe peace, maybe just empty space that slowly fills with something new, or maybe nothing. Maybe that is what you are afraid of, but maybe nothing is lighter than what you have been carrying. Maybe nothing weighs less. Maybe nothing is the only thing that does not hurt. Kierkegaard spent most of his life unable to let go of one woman. Her name was Regine Olsen. He loved her. He proposed to her. She accepted. And then he broke off the engagement. He could not explain why, not fully. Something about his melancholy. Something about his sense that he was not fit for marriage, for ordinary happiness, for the life she deserved. Something about his calling to write, to think, to suffer in the particular way that he suffered. He left her. She married someone else. She lived a long, ordinary, probably happy life. And Kierkegaard spent the next 15 years writing about her, thinking about her, constructing elaborate philosophical works that were, underneath everything, love letters to a woman he had chosen to lose. He never got over her. He never let go. He died at 42, still carrying her, still writing to her, still living in the aftermath of a decision he made when he was 27. Was this pathetic? Was it weakness? Or was it something else? Maybe some people are meant to carry their ghosts. Maybe some losses are too woven into who you are to ever be fully released. Maybe Kierkegaard needed Regine the way he needed air. Not to be with her, but to write about her, to think about her, to use the loss as fuel for everything he created. He turned his inability to let go into some of the most profound philosophy ever written. His wound became his work. Maybe that is an option. Not letting go, but transforming. Not releasing the ghost, but giving it a job. Using the pain instead of being used by it. This is not advice. This is just observation. Some people let go and move on. Some people hold on and are destroyed. And some people hold on and build something from the wreckage. You have to figure out which one you are. So here you are, still holding, still hurting, still haunted. Now you know why. Not because you are weak, not because you are broken, not because there is something wrong with you, but because letting go is death. And death is terrifying, even when the thing you are holding is already dead. The ghost is still there. The phantom limb still aches. The version of yourself that lived in that relationship, that job, that family, is still performing in an empty theater. And you have a choice. Not an easy choice. Not a clear choice. Not a choice you can make once and be done with. A daily choice. An hourly choice. A choice you will have to make again and again until it becomes less a choice and more a habit. And then, maybe, one day, a way of being. You can keep holding. You can keep the ghost. Keep the pain. Keep the identity that was built from the wound. There is a kind of integrity in that, a refusal to forget, a loyalty to what was, even if what was is gone. Some people are gravekeepers for their own past. Some people tend the tombs of who they used to be. That is a valid life. Painful, maybe, but valid. Or you can start to open your hand, not all at once. Not because you decided to, but because you are tired. Because the weight has become heavier than the fear of the void. Because you have given enough years to the ghost and you want to see what else there is. You do not know what is in the empty hand. You do not know who you are without the story. You do not know what you will find in the space where the pain used to be. Maybe nothing. Maybe that is what you are afraid of. But you have been carrying nothing disguised as something for years. At least this nothing would be lighter. At least this nothing would be honest. At least this nothing would be yours. The question is not how to let go. The question is how much longer. How much longer can you carry this before the carrying becomes heavier than the loss? How much longer can you perform this identity before the performance exhausts you more than the emptiness would? How much longer can you live in the past before you realize the past is where you go to hide from living? I cannot answer that for you. No one can. Only you and the ghost and the weight and the slow exhaustion of holding on. And maybe one day, not because you chose it, but because you could not carry it anymore, your hand will open, and the ghost will go, and you will stand there in the space where they used to be, and you will feel the phantom pain. And then, slowly, the brain will update its map, and you will learn to live in the body you actually have, in the life you actually have, in the self you actually are. Not the one who was hurt, not the one who was left, just you. And that will be enough. It will have to be, because it is all you ever had.